Hello. What up, people? Something happened with my OBS and I lost chat for Twitch, so I have it on the Twitch website directly. So I'm trying to set up their dashboard the same as what I usually use. There we go. That should be better. There we go. That's better. Yeah, right? Hopefully it doesn't completely tank my quality. The preview sucks, but whatever. Okay. Well, hello. Scotty Adrian here. I'm it's Saturday. It's been a long day. Went to a pretty cool festival. Halfway to Halloween. It's kind of like just a bunch of booths and a bunch of tables. You know, people have a bunch of stalls with their wares. And basically just buying a bunch of stuff, to be honest. But no, it's fun. A lot of cool things, a lot of cool costumes. They, you know, because it's halfway to Halloween, they have like a costume contest and stuff. Yeah, so it's been kind of a long day, especially with kids when they're involved. But I posted my short super late today. I did it basically like 10 minutes ago. Just wasn't around all day, you know. And then played some games with the wife. We've been playing these like detective games, like Death at a Dive Bar, Exit, Cold Case, all these like you know, physical detective games where you solve a murder or escape something or find somebody, and they're really fun. They're disposable because it's like a one-time thing, right? And sometimes the games you have to like destroy the evidence in order to, you know, figure out the clue. So I don't know how I feel about that. I guess puzzles have always been disposable in this house as well. My wife's a big puzzle person, and you know, after you finish them, she doesn't hang them or anything like that. So it's like you either give it to somebody or throw them out. I mean, when we moved from Burbank to here, I threw out a good 20 puzzles, I think, that we were just stashing. Dude, it's crazy. Such a crazy thing. I don't know if anybody talks about puzzle waste. Is that a thing? Could be. I'd like to see a Netflix documentary about puzzle waste and how it's killing the earth. Alright. Well, I mean, I don't know. No one's complained yet, and I don't know if this is true, but I think everybody's kind of bummed that I'm still reading the book and not just going straight into game deving, but I don't really have a choice. I have 4 days. Nope, sorry, 3 days. Oh my god. I gotta turn this in on Tuesday. Right? Tuesday. Yeah. And, yeah, so I gotta finish a couple chapters right now. I was writing some extra parts because, I definitely need to bolster some of the numbers. And this chapter got cut down pretty good. But yeah, with the loss of some characters in parts, a lot of parts, like talking parts, are getting removed and references to them. So I'd like to get maybe 1,500 more words written. But before that, I want to finish this run through. So let's go back to where we were. We were at 151. Yeah, right. We were here. Okay. I misspelled sneaky. Cool. Alright, so Valdak continues to approach, lifts his hands, motioning for peace. Okay, so where we left off, or where I left off, they're trying to go to the old Ammonium barracks in order to find a way of communicating with Myropelia and get contact with Graham so that he can, you know, get home. And so they run into Valdag, which is the, you know, the mage, elven mage that took over Corlin's place running the Elven Domain Forest Army at you know, ask of the king. So we'll start here. Valdag continued his approach and lifted his hands up, motioning for peace. Please, everyone, do not fear. I am not here to fight, Valdag announced and bowed. Corlin, I'm glad to see you're unharmed. Word of the murderous Ammonian spy abducting you made me think of the worst. I guess Graham's transport of Corlin wasn't as sneaky as he thought. Corlin stepped forward and scratched the back of his head. Valdag, it has been quite some time since our last meeting. Valdag bowed to the Duke, and while he was staying in the lowered position, said, I apologize for the situation your uncle has put me in. Please forgive me if you think I've overstepped on your duties. It appeared that Valdag was embarrassed for taking over Corlin's army in his absence, but if what Drake told us was true, he was a cunning politician, and now we can see a powerful mage as well. How did you find us? John asked sternly. Journeyman saw you leaving Blacklaw, Valdag explained. He rose back up from his bow. With the increase in security due to goblin activity, no one will be able to travel the forests undetected. What do you want? I asked with a narrow glare at the mage, but he ignored me. Your Grace, are you being held captive by these people? Where is your abductor? Valdag asked as he looked at our group's members. It's a long story. I also cannot explain my position in all of it. Know that for the good of Orbem, I must remain with these people for the time being, Corlin explained. The good of Orbem? You say. If that is true, then I am pleased. What should I tell the king if he calls upon me? Valdag asked with a smirk. You may tell my uncle I will send word of my return soon. Corlin said. Corlin said. I'm sure he would prefer an elf of your caliber at the head of my army during such a tumultuous time. Anyhow. Valdek bowed again. You flatter me too much, Your Grace. Please return soon and safely. Without warning, Valdek burst into flames, causing us to shield our faces. When the flames were gone, so was the mage. That elf scares me more than Coromir, John said seriously. He had a point. Valdek's demeanor was impossible to read. And... see a comma? And his use of magic was frighteningly impressive. Looks like you're sticking with us, huh? Rochelle asked Corlin with a bright smile. For now, yes. I promise to teach Grey magic and I'll stand by my word. Corlin answered. I commended the Duke for his loyalty. While I had no doubt he was getting something out of this arrangement, I did not suspect any foul play. Most likely the avoidance of responsibility was his aim. Looks like the old Harmonian's place is up ahead. What are we waiting for? Coriander commented. After a bit more hiking past multitudes of death and rusted or decayed military equipment, we finally reached our destination. The barracks front entrance was still open from when John and I came previously, and the entire group began to enter the building. Corlin was touching all the plant-covered walls and overturned furniture as we made our way to the elevator. He appeared to have a fascination with the Harmonian's derelict building. I wonder what was going through the mind of a royal elf in a place like that. We should all take different floors. We'll search for an hour and return to this room to present our findings, I instructed the group. We all picked various floors to give us the best chance of discovering the communication device. We all picked different floors. And I don't need to say all. We picked different floors to give us the best chance of discovering the communication device we could use to speak with Marpelia. As John and Graham... yeah, here we go. I was adding some spots to this. As John and Graham had spent a decent amount of time exploring these floors, we were confident that there were several that we could ignore. Jeannie, John, and Corlin went for the 8th floor. Coriander and I decided to take the top floor the elevator would go. The floor we entered was full of light. Yeah, it's kind of jumped really quickly. The Harmonian elevators were such a stark difference to the one in Pax home. The eerie smoothness. How do you spell eerie? The eerie smoothness left me wondering if it was working at all. Only when the doors opened to our level did I realize we moved at all. We moved. I can't say it all twice. The eerie smoothness left me wondering if it was working at all. If it was still in commission. Only when the doors opened to our level did I realize we moved at all. Alright. The floor we entered was full of light. It appeared someone forgot to turn them off, possibly, or there was some sort of automated timing system in place. Regardless, the hallway was oddly one of the cleanest I'd seen so far. We were on the lookout for rooms that could hold this unknown technology. The barren walls gave us no indication of said rooms. As we walked carefully not to miss any, Coriander and I ran our hand and paw across the walls, hoping to trigger some opening mechanism. Every step bred a deeper sense of failure in our mission. My only hope was that there could be a room at the end of that long hallway. Suddenly, Coriander stopped walking. "What's wrong?" I asked him. "Did you hear that, miss?" "A little beep a few steps behind," Coriander asked, and was looking at the walls behind us. "Are you sure? I didn't hear anything," I questioned, but knew Coriander had astronomically better hearing, so we both backed up a few steps. "There," Coriander said and pointed to the point where the noise originated. I like doing that. Looking closely at the wall, I took my hand and waved it over the section, and just as Coriander said, a quiet beep sounded and a green ring about the size of a coin glowed. Using my previous knowledge of Harmonian user interfaces, I hovered my finger over the ring, and an opening appeared in the wall. A light from inside the room began flashing on and off from the ceiling until it stayed constant. There were various disheveled-looking items all over the floors and atop the several steel tables strewn around the room. It looked more like a storage room than any sort of communication center, but Coriander and I began to dig through the clutter and check for anything that might be useful. The cannon's eyes went wide as he scanned the area. "Do you see something?" I asked. "So many crystals," Coriander said with an astonished tone as he pointed to various areas in the interior. From wall to wall, I could see different colored crystals either embedded in unknown devices or just thrown about the tabletops as if they were trash. From the look on Coriander's face, I imagined those must have been worth quite a lot in the Orbem economy. "Are any of these dormants?" I asked as I picked up a couple red colored gems. "No, not these. This lot is far more valuable. Bet they have some power left in them," Coriander answered as he began placing some loose crystal in his cloak pockets. "Let's not forget why we're here. Grab what you can carry comfortably and start looking for any devices with antenna, speakers, or microphones." I reminded the excited candidate as I made sure to pocket a handful of crystals myself. While I had gotten around Orbem without any wealth thus far, it was possible they would come in handy at some point. Antenna, speakers, microphones. Coriander began saying to himself. Hey, miss, can I ask you a question? Sure. What is it? What are antenna, speakers, and microphones anyway? I hadn't even considered what I was asking of the forest-dwelling cannon. Looking around for examples, I found a device with a device. With an antenna. I found various devices with each type and pointed out what to look for going forward. Everything we came across was either disassembled or impossible to identify, so we grabbed a few devices, including my examples. Grabbed a few devices with possible antenna or speaker grills, including my examples. And search farther down the hallway for more rooms. 2 more lit up rings led to 2 more rooms full of miscellaneous technology. I was beginning to believe the top level was simply a repository for broken or extra parts as we reached the finale of the hallway. Here's one more, miss, Coroner pointed out, and I repeated the same motions as with the other doors, resulting in the same retraction, leaving an opening for us to explore. This time we couldn't see inside. It was as though we opened a door to another door. After further investigation, I could see the inner blockade was not a door. Not a door at all. But simply a large rectangular metal box with an equally metallic sphere on top. What's this? I asked as I ran my hand up and down the box. Suddenly the metal sphere on top spun around, revealing a red crystal embedded into its center like a beautiful ruby eye. Very peculiar. It's looking right at us, ain't it? Maybe we can just push it out of the way, Coroner suggested and began approaching. Suggested. Coroner suggested. He began approaching the sphere-headed box with a high-pitched whining. When a high-pitched whining began to sound from the sphere. That sounds familiar, like the crystal-tipped staffs we've come across before, I remembered. Then my eyes went wide. Watch out! Coroner jumped to the floor as a bolt of red electricity shot straight where his head once was. We gotta go, miss. Must be one of those guard bots Graham and John told us about. Coroner said in a panic as he stood back up. The sound of another bolt charging caught my ears, so instead of waiting around to receive it, we both ran down the hallway back towards the elevator. Before we made it halfway, a wall descended from the ceiling, cutting off our exit. What's going on? I asked in fear as Coroner slammed into the wall, unable to stop his momentum. Doesn't look like we'll be leaving that way, Coroner panicked as he pushed on the newly manifested wall. The guard bot began exiting the opening it was sleeping in, and the sphere spun around in our direction. A bolt of red electricity shot down the hallway, nearly missing my head. I thought I added a piece actually up here. What's this? Look at it, suggestion. Let's do I thought John said they killed all of those. I yelled as jump to the floor. Boop, 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 boop. I shouted. Doesn't look like we're leaving this way. Quick, open another door. I know they killed some. Okay, how do we... Okay, here we go. Doesn't look like we can leave it this way. Panic. Okay, the guard bot began exiting the opening it was sleeping in, and the sphere spun around in our direction. A bolt of red electricity shot down the hallway, nearly missing my head and scorching the new wall behind us. How do we stop this thing? Graham and John said they encountered several, I asked. Coriander, who was... Graham and John... Did Graham and John ever tell you how they killed them? I asked Coriander, who was looking down at the floor while scratching his chin. I know they killed some. I know they said something about it. Graham mentioned something about poking and swiping. I don't remember, Coriander said as he crouched in anticipation for the slow approaching robot. It appeared to be dragging across the floor, hindering its movement. The screech of the metal base and floor scraping together made my teeth ache, and I almost missed the bolt shooting towards us as I dove to the floor, dropping my bag of crystals and tech, and landing on top of Coriander, who had the same idea. Quick, open another door, I screamed over the scraping metal noises, and Coriander began waving his paw. Coriander began waving his paw all over the walls as we were forced to head in the direction of the attacking bot. There! Coriander found a lit-up green ring, and I engaged it, causing the door to slide open to a room we had entered previously. Quickly, we rushed into the opening right as the two more bolts of electricity whizzed past our heads. We have to close the door, I said, frazzled. I waved my hands all over the door perimeter, searching for another button or switch. Just as I expected, there was an identical green light ring on the inside, and I quickly engaged it, resulting in the door we entered closing. The sounds of scraping metal on metal stopped suddenly as the robot lost our position. Coriander was sitting on the floor next to me, breathing heavily, and I noticed he also lost his bag in the chaos. Hey, Mike, how you doing, man? Sorry, I don't know how long you were there. I just noticed. Just getting some reading in. I have to turn this in on Tuesday, so we gotta make up some ground. I've got a little less than 100 pages left, looks like. Yep. So enjoy this chapter and one more chapter, and then I'll start working on the game. The sound of scraping metal on metal stopped suddenly as the robot lost their position. Coriander was sitting on the floor next to me, breathing heavily, and I noticed he also lost his bag in the chaos. Do you think it'll go away? Coriander asked me as his breathing settled. I'm not sure. Even if it does, it appears our passage has been blocked. We might have to hope John and the others come looking for us and figure out how to get us out, I surmised in a frustrated tone. There was no question how much I hated feeling helpless. Orbem had a way of making that a common occurrence, but my dependence on others never got any easier. The room we were in only contained a few crystals and one rod-shaped device that appeared to resemble a directional microphone. Not interested in checking if the guard was still waiting for us, I began to poke around the cluttered tables once again. Coriander didn't seem interested and chose to remain lying on the floor until our rescue arrived. There were a few metal bookshelves at the back of the room I didn't fully investigate previously. The outward appearance proved to be uninteresting. With rows of folders and books I couldn't understand. With the extra time, I thought maybe I could find something to read. But that makes no sense. The outward appearance proved to be uninteresting. With rows of folders and books I couldn't understand. With the extra time, I thought maybe I could find something to read. At least. A bright blue book cover on the top shelf caught my eye. Unfortunately for me, it was a bit out of my reach, so I had to stretch my arm and get on my tiptoes just to graze the cover with my fingertips. "Hey Coriander, do you?" I began to ask the canon for assistance. But was met with a content snoring of someone who would prefer not to be bothered, so I let the lying dog sleep. I began to ask the canon for assistance. Unfortunately, I was met with the content snoring of someone who would prefer not to be bothered, so I let the lying dog sleep. Instead, I grabbed a block of some computer technology to stand on and get a bit better reach. It still required me to stretch, but I was able to grab the cover. The book was wedged tightly in between all the other folders and papers on its shelf, so I began pulling harder and harder until my increased strength caused the shelf itself to tip forward. I released the book quickly and jumped out of the way of the swaying bookshelf. The furniture teetered back, and I felt a bit relieved until it leaned forward again, then back, and finally forward and fell towards me. My concern was still with the sleeping Kenneth behind me, so I put my arms out to catch the shelf as it slammed on top of me. It was much heavier than I anticipated, pinning me in place. Looking around furiously for something to brace the shelves with, I saw a sturdy-looking 3-foot-long pipe-shaped device at my feet. With practice ease, I focused and split my left arm into two, keeping one arm on the shelves and the other split arm grabbed the pipe. I focused and split my left arm into two, keeping one arm on the shelves, and with the other split arm, grabbed the pipe and wedged it in between the furniture and the floor, allowing me just enough time to move out from underneath it before the pipe slipped and she slammed to the floor. What the fuck am I writing, dude? Let's practice the fourth of the foot and two. Keeping one arm on the shelves and with the other split arm. Keeping one arm on the shelves and with the other split arm grabbing the pipe. I wedged it in between the furniture and the floor, allowing me just enough time to move out from under it before the pipe slipped and it slammed to the floor. Okay. Coriander jumped up and yelped. Oh. Wait a second. So it did slam to the floor. I wedged it in between the furniture and the floor, allowing me just enough time to move out from under it. As I cleared the shelf, as I squeezed out from under the shelf, the pipe slipped and it slammed to the floor. The shelves. The pipe slipped and it slammed to the floor. Coriander jumped and yelled, What happened?" "Sorry, I made a bit of a mess. I didn't mean to wake you," I said, as I began combining my left arm back into one solid piece. "Don't worry, miss. You alright?" Coriander asked with his head cocked to one side. "Yeah, just knocked these shelves over trying to grab a book," I explained. but then was but I don't have to keep saying that. I explained, but then was distracted by something peculiar. Or I can just say it. I became distracted by something peculiar when I looked back at all the fallen shelves. When I didn't continue talking, Coriander stood up and approached me, then began staring at the same thing I was. With the furniture knocked over, a new portion of the room was exposed. It was dark, so we couldn't make out anything inside, and I stepped over the floored shelves, then ran my hand around the walls at the opening to find any sort of light switch. As I stepped farther into the dark section, a ceiling light deep inside flickered to life, illuminating the new section. While the rest of the room was cluttered and full of junk, this portion looked quite functional and kept. 3 clean steel tables in a row sat at the center of the inner room. 1 chair was at the midpoint of each table waiting for use. Beyond the tables, the back wall was covered from floor to ceiling as well as the entire length, with unidentifiable computer towers full of large glass-like screens and embedded crystals. On the right side, there even appeared to be some sort of long cabinet with a square piece of glass in the top portion and circular dial at the center that appeared to be large enough for one to step into. What do you suppose that is? Coriander asked as he approached my side. It's hard to tell. All the technology is so foreign to me. It's highly possible that this could be what we've been looking for, I answered incredulously. To get a better look, I walked past the tables and starting from the left side, I combed over all the glass and crystals looking for any sign of their functions. Using the same gestures I found to work on doors or other Harmonian tech, I began waving and hovering my fingers over each crystal and screen trying to engage any of them. Nothing appeared to be responding to my attempts. With my hand to my chin, I looked up and began to think. What would Graham do? It didn't matter how hard I racked my brain for any memory or instruction I might have come across that would assist me. If these devices were broken or had some unknown key to activate them, I wasn't aware of any method to solve that puzzle. Looks like it's missing some crystals, eh? Coriander noted and pointed to a section on the wall-to-wall tech. There appeared to be 4 concave indentations the same shape as some of the other embedded crystals. That's it. This must require additional crystals to power it on, I elaborated on Coriander's discovery. I wonder why they went and they up and went missing. I wonder why they up and went missing. No, that's right. Wonder why they up and went missing. True, the Harmonians not only purposely deactivated this large device, but covered its existence so heavily. If we were to find out why, I don't think we have much of a choice other than turning it back on, I rationalized. Next, I exited the inner room to look for any replacement crystals that might fit. Unfortunately, we had taken the obvious crystals when we passed through the room previously, which were now out with the security bot. Our only chance was a few mystery tools that had crystals inside their inner workings. All in all, we ended up with 8 is kind of a high number. Let's say like 5 crystals in various sizes and returned them to the wall-to-wall tech. This is me. Okay, next, I exited the inner. Alright. We both took 4 each Yep, we both took a few each and began attempting to place them into the indentations one by one. It seemed as though the crystals that were taken from the piece of machinery were specially made for the alcoves, since the first two I tried were nowhere near the correct size or shape. The third crystal required a few flips and twists, but eventually settled into the third slot convincingly. Hey, one of mine worked as well. 2 to go, Coriander said excitedly with a bright smile. The puzzle-solving aspect was quite invigorating. The fun of it almost allowed me to forget about the fact we were trapped by a robot that wanted to kill us. Looks like the rest of these are failures. Let's find some more, I suggested, and we did just that. Several broken devices later, and some crawling around on the floor, we managed to get 3 additional crystals that looked promising. The fact 2 out of the 3 would have to work, or we were out of crystals, was grim. Coriander tried his one crystal on the remaining 2 slots, but neither fit. Tentatively, I gave my first crystal a shot. It was blue and dull, but didn't fit into the first. After several twists and flips, it miraculously fit into the second slot. One more, I said, and held out my last crystal. My insides were buzzing in anticipation and fear. It was possible the machine would do something completely different than what we needed. It was also possible it was dangerous or even beyond repair. All the barracks' interior were said to be thousands of years old. While the security systems were still intact, there was always the possibility that any communication devices were far from in service. With my last crystal in hand, I placed it into the slot. It didn't work initially, so I began trying it at different angles. Every position I tried, one by one, failed until I noticed it began to sort of fit. No way, I said in surprise, and began pushing the crystal into place. It wasn't fitting, so I gave it a little bit of force. More force. Come on, little guy. Let me try, Coriander said, and I backed away frustrated. The Kenneth made a fist and began pounding on the crystal. Whoa, be careful. You could break the whole device, I complained, and Coriander backed away nervously. Sorry, miss. It was so close. I don't think we can force these. I hope it's not stuck, I said, and tried to pull the jammed crystal out. Suddenly, the entire wall of screens and crystals began to flicker and glow in a dazzling light show. There were internal mechanisms coming to life with sounds of spinning hard drives and fans, as well as interesting tones and beeps. Interesting tones of beeps. We did it, miss, Coriander exclaimed, just as a bright flash exploded with a dangerous sounding pop at the end, resulting in darkness. Yeah, it's too much. I'm playing. Just as he celebrated, a bright flash exploded with a dangerous sounding pop at the end, resulting in darkness filling the entire room. What'd I do? Nothing, I'm sure. The last crystal must have been incompatible to handle the entire array. At least we know it works under the right circumstances. We'll just need to find more crystals. Hello! A voice called out from beyond our room, coming from the hallway. Coriander and I looked at each other and ran to the wall facing the hallway and put our ears up to it. Yona? Coriander? Jeannie's voice beckoned us. We frantically began waving our hands around the area where we entered the room until a green light lit up. As before, I engaged the circle and our door opened. The opening was blocked by John's mech, and the sound caused him to jump back, smacking into the wall behind him. Ouch, John complained while rubbing his head. Yona? Hey, Jeannie, it's them! Jeannie turned around and ran up to us and wrapped me in a large hug. Ah, lass, we were so worried when you didn't return. What happened? Before I could answer, the sound of electric charge whining at us from down the hall. Before I could answer, the sound of a loud electric charge whined at us from down the hall. It appeared the security bot found us. once again. That happened, I said and pointed at the scraping guard bot. John patted my shoulder and said, I got it, then began running at the bot full speed. Huh. Could have sworn me and Graham killed all of those things. Graham said he at least shut the program down. This one must be separate from the security system. Separated from the security system. Oops. I did not mean to do that. Ah, come on, dude. You can't be lagging. You're just a word program. There we go. Huh. Guess why I'm gonna kill those things. John began with squinted eyes. I'm sad that you at least shut the program again. This must be their system. Don't worry. I got it. John began running at the bot full speed. With practiced skill, the large mech armored man quickly caught the robot's attention, ran around to its back, and launched a heavy punch to its body, resulting in a metallic crunch sound. Before the sphere could pinpoint its assailant's position, John shoved his arm inside the opening he just made, and after a few seconds of rifling around, yanked a handful of wires and some steel cube out of the bot. The sphere's crystal lost light and rolled off the top of the rectangular body with a few loud thuds as it bounced to the floor in front of it. There we go, John said and wiped his hands together a couple times. It'd be too soon if I never saw one of these guys again. Brilliant, friend, the coroner exclaimed as John rejoined our group. Where's everyone else? Where's Corland? Because he's the only one left. I asked, noticing they weren't. I asked, noticing the Duke was not present with them. Was not present at that moment. We all met up on the ground level. Oh, we all went to the ground level before we came looking for you. He said he didn't want to get in the way. So the Duke is waiting on us, Jeannie explained. Did any of you find anything of use? I asked the two, but John shook his head. Looks like the Harmonians cleared out most of the rooms. Only found furniture and some weapons on the floor, John said and looked to Jeannie. Yeah. Cortland made it slow going, but our floor was full of large empty glass containers and not much else. Jeannie said with a defeated tone. How about you two? John asked, hopeful. Can't be certain, but I do believe we might have found an interesting machine that could be of some use to our cause. I explained. With hope in my heart, I pointed into the room we had just exited. All four of us entered the room and John investigated the wall-to-wall machine Coroner and I discovered. Being much more advanced in technological engineering, John found multiple hatches behind the glass screens and even found a way to open the tall cabinet. Nothing I can understand, that's for sure. But this could be a communication system and even a way to travel to Myropelia if the cabinet is what I think it is, John began to say in a wondrous tone and sparkling eyes. Just need to power it, I suppose. Coroner and I managed to spark it to life with some old crystals we found, but it didn't last long, I said to John, who was staring at the crystals we had inserted. John pulled one out and looked at it intensely. Looks fried, maybe. We have to be careful. We could destroy this thing if we give it the wrong amount of power. Hopefully you two didn't already cause any major shorts. The thought that I could be the cause of losing our one chance at helping Gray made me sick. It was foolish of us to tamper with technology that was so foreign to both my universe and skill set. John noticed my expression and put his arm around my shoulder. Don't worry. We'll get this thing working. I don't see any other points of burnout, so it seems it only affected this jammed crystal here. Let's go get the others and let's go get Corlin. And I'll grab some supplies from Graham's lab, John suggested, and we did exactly that. The entire group was now sitting in the inner clean room at the tables as we watched John fiddling with the machine. He grabbed a handful of crystals Graham collected, as well as some tools they used with retrofitting their P3s. Used when retrofitting their P3s with the new power cells. Never seen anything like this. John said with wide eyes and a bright smile. These ammonias made some nutty stuff, Coroner commented in reply. Corlin finished touching each crystal embedded into the wall-to-wall machine for the third time. Finished touching each crystal embedded into the wall-to-wall machine out of curiosity. Curiosity spelled wrong. There we go. For the third time. And managed to only trip over John's leg once as he worked on his knees. Corlin began, clutching one of his arms as his shoulders were dropped. Are you alright? I asked him. And touching the machine out of curiosity. Then began clutching one of his arms as his shoulders were dropped. Are you alright? I asked him. Oh yeah, sorry, the Harmonian's power is a bit overwhelming. I do hope the elves and Harmonians can become allies. The thought of having to face them in battle worries me more than I'd like, Corlin said in a quaking voice. Why would you need to battle them? I asked him. But was interrupted when all the glass screens flashed for a moment. Ah, think I got it, John said to himself, with a triumphant chuckle. Haha. Alright. As soon as I insert this last crystal, the entire machine should power on. Coroner, turn over the tables and make some shields just in case. Okay, it's almost done. Coroner, turn all the tables, blah blah blah. Coriander turned all the tables over with the tops facing the machine as we all sat behind them in anticipation with what might happen when it powers on. John looked back at us and turned his torso away from the wall-to-wall machine as he slowly slipped the final crystal into place. With the final pressure of his finger, the crystal clicked and the entire machine began to make noises of powering on. Like before, I could hear fans whirling and beeping noises in various tones. The glass screens all began to glow, and all the crystals lit up in their different tones, different hues. The soft sound of music began to emanate from the machine with a pleasant electronic hum. When the music ended, all the glass screens began showing a picture of a black shape. It looked like some sort of crest with a shield border and flowy letter M at the center. Well, that's something, Jeannie commented as everyone left the makeshift barricades. Like a bunch of TVs or something, John added and tapped on the screens. I approached the machine and looked at the different glowing crystals. With my index finger, I hovered over a yellow crystal under one of the glass screens. After a couple seconds, the crystal stopped glowing as well as the screen. "What'd you do?" John asked. "I don't know, I just engaged the crystal here," I said and hovered my finger over the crystal again, causing it to turn back on as well as the screen. "We need to find the crystal that triggers a call to Myropelia, if there is one," John surmised. John suggested. "Which one?" Jeannie asked. As Corland stood next to her. John tried another crystal under a screen, resulting in the same behavior as mine. Then he turned the screen back on. Suddenly, the screen's pictures changed to rings that grew larger from the center over and over as a pleasant hum began to play. Hum. It was different than the previous sound and repeated. "What happened?" I asked John, who shrugged in response. It was only then when I noticed Corland to my right with his slender finger hovering over a large purple crystal. Ah. You did it, I said to Corland with a bright smile. "Did what?" John asked. Jeannie asked. But before anyone could answer her, the hum ceased. Jeannie asked. Before anyone could answer her, the hum ceased and the rings disappeared from the screen. They were replaced with the outline of a person, as if in shadow. "Hello?" I asked the shadowed person. "I don't know, it just turned on," a person's voice sounded from the machine, and sounds of rough... I say sound too many times. A person's voice began coming from the machine, and sounds of rustling could be heard in the background. It couldn't possibly be working. "Check the crystal diode," a different voice said. "Hey, can you hear us?" John asked, and all the background noise went quiet. "Wait, I heard something. Turn it up," the first voice said. "Impossible. Hello? Is someone there?" the second voice said, and the picture began to lighten as two forms emerged. They appeared to be two men in white robes, and I saw John and Corrinder's eyes go wide in recognition. What? Alright. Next chapter. Project Goblin Begone. Great chapter name. Several confusing occurrences were racking my brain as I sat at a table with the Doran. the Hammonian leader who apparently was thousands of years old and used to lead the infamous Orbem order that Cormir told us about. How do you all know me, for that matter? Why did you lock me up if you knew me? I asked my series of frustrated questions. While the Hammonians' relationship with the elves is tumultuous and complex, we are aware of their affairs. This awareness allows us to remain engaged with Orbem, or rather remain unengaged, really, Doran explained without answering my question directly. Ah, heard about Schmelwick, huh? The prince became paranoid of our kind long ago. At first, the news of Hammonian spies rampaging through the southern region was a passing anecdote of a mad elf. Though, when word of Hammonian spies being captured and a subsequent murder allegation began reaching our temple, we were forced to investigate. Makes sense, I guess. I was told you lost your arm. Pity we were unable to assist you. We might have saved it, Doran began to say as he gazed at my empty sleeve. I do have one question that confounds me as I see you here today. What question? I was forced to ask as Doran paused. Where is your blade? Doran's well-informed question caught me off guard. Me and the other terrestrials were on the other side of the world, and even those Orbem closest to us never referred to my device by name. Again, my opinions of the Hammonians were turned upside down. There was too much I needed to know and too much I needed to do. Listen, Doran, I would love to sit around asking you a million questions about the Orbem Hammonians and tell you all about me and my blade. But the reason I came to ask for your help, the reason I came was to ask for your help to get me back home. I insisted. Doran looked off. Doran looked off to the side at nothing for a moment before looking back at me. Back home to Earth? Doran asked simply, and again shook me with his knowledge. No, not that home. I mean back to Cannith Village. I see. I'm afraid we have cut all ties with that region of Orbem and do not travel beyond the drylands. It was starting to feel as if I wasted days, only putting myself farther from my destination. My frustration began to well up, but I attempted to keep my temper cool. Well, can you at least get me to Myropelia? Surely you have a connection to them, I asked and waited eagerly for a positive response. I don't think you understand, Graham. The reason we Hammonians have cut ties with the southern region is precisely because of its proximity to the origin portal and communication systems with Myropelia. We were forced to abandon our brethren of Myropelia long ago, Doran explained as he looked down at the tabletop. His words felt tortured. He sounded like a man who knew everything and bared the weight of the world on his shoulders. Well, then it sounds like you're all unable to help me with my needs. I guess I should be going. Then, I said and pushed out my seat and stood up with a slow, depressing speed. Actually, yeah, this would be better. I said... I don't have to say that. I could just say I pushed out my seat and then stood up. Help me with my needs. Here we go. This is better. Well, then it sounds like you're all unable to help me with my needs. I pushed out my seat, then stood up with a slow, depressing speed. I guess I should be going. Doran stood up suddenly and held his open palm up at me. Wait, please. You must hear me. Your people need you, Graham. There are matters at hand that require your unique gifts that could benefit us all. Benefit us and all Orbem. I stopped and looked at his stiff neck and overbright eyes, then sat back down. As I did, Doran's posture relaxed, as he also took his seat. Alright, you have my attention. I must apologize if I seem desperate. Perhaps it would be best if I explained. Doran began. He held his arm up, signaling a worker to bring over a pitcher of water. The attendant then poured 2 glasses and handed one to Doran and then me. Doran took a long drink and then deep breath before. Here, hold on. The lack of clean water caused me to down my glass with impressive speed. Then the attendant. The attendant refilled it, and I finished the second one, the second glass. Do you have any food? I haven't eaten in a day. I haven't eaten in a day. Over a day. Doran smiled and beckoned the attendant to bring us some food, some, I don't know what, appetizers, some various appetizers, I guess. Beckon the attendant. To bring us some various appetizers. They didn't last long. As I inhaled each one as they were sat down on the table. The food was tasteless. Was almost tasteless. Come on, dude. It appeared some onions per valued health. Over health and nutrition. Over flavor. Okay. Doran took a long drink of water and then a deep breath before continuing. Our conversation. The Orbem War was inevitable. While my ally and closest friend in the Order spoke of diplomacy out of one side of his mouth. Out of the other side, stoked the fires of chaos. He stoked the fires of chaos. My eyes went wide and I asked, Coromir? The very same. Coromir Veldora Barastium. Ageless and powerful, his abilities to control and join the darkness of Orbem made an important figure to the Orbem Order. Though his relationship with the goblins overshadowed his needs of the other Orbemi. We were all blind. I was blind, Doran said, and became lost in thought as he stared through me. So, Cormyr was behind the original war? How did he lose? Does the return of the goblins have something to do with all of this? I asked as Doran snapped out of his stupor. Yes, you see, Cormyr had a terrible secret. Doran explained. One that consumed his soul and drove every action. Revenge. He sought revenge against the elves for the destruction of his clan, and he was willing to burn us all to get it. The Harmonians had no choice. We were forced to change sides and contain his rage, even if that meant siding with his enemies. Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible secret. Had ulterior motives. Ulterior motives. Ulterior? Ulterior. Wait, so you guys aligned with the elves and took down Cormyr and the Forbidden Army? I asked, trying to piece together his history based off of information I already knew. It was complex, but I was piecing complex, but I was able to piece together his story based off of information I already knew. Doran's haunted eyes chilled my insides. 2 aides ran to his side. Please, sir, you mustn't continue. You know how this subject affects you, the aide on the left said while holding Doran's arm. Hey, Doran, you don't have to keep talking about the past if it's too hard. Why don't you just cut to what's going on right now? I asked. Yeah. It would be best if Doran... if we avoided Doran having some sort of freak out. Dealing with these people that have been around for thousands of years and seen so much was beginning to scare me about my own future. The Holy Grail syringes were the same thing keeping Doran alive than it seemed Deanna, John, Jeannie, and I were in for a long life. Doran began to calm down and his eyes returned to their original semi-calm appearance. The 2 aides left his side and Doran put his hands together on the table in front of him. Yes, you're right. It might be better if I were more direct. Goblins are moving. Doran agreed. The goblins are moving again. After Cormyr's battle with you, we noticed an increase in activity. It appears Cormyr is ready to attempt to seek revenge again. Only now, the whole of Orbem is his enemy. Shit, did I cause this? I thought with a familiar feeling of guilt. It was Thyrus all over again. Because of my existence, another powerful psychopath was going to kill a bunch of people. Was my purpose of living to doom others? In all honesty, a part of me felt these moments made me an important person to the multiverse. Then, another part of me felt guilty for finding self-worth in such horrendous causation. The one thing these 2 situations burned into my heart was the fact that I was responsible for solving them. Before this unexpected trip, I was truly under the guise that Orbem affairs were none of my business. That anything I offered or accomplished towards their gain was out of pity or love for my new friends. At that moment, Doran's words embedded a chunk of duty wedged into my stomach, which no amount of reason or rationalization my brain threw at it could dislodge. I spoke to Cormyr. Not long before coming to the north, I divulged, and Doran's mouth fell open. He said his aim was to make Orbem a better place by removing the Elven and Hammonian influence. That, under his rule, the Orbemi would be free, so to speak. Funny. Why would Cormyr seek your ear? Considering the last encounter, I wonder, was he asking for your help? Doran cleverly deciphered. Yeah, actually, he was offering to help me and my friends solve our own problem back on Earth. I see. Well, you've heard my story. What say you? Whom will you side with? Doran asked with a narrowed gaze. Whoa, relax. I'm not helping Cormyr kill everyone. No matter how just he thinks he is, Cormyr is looking out for himself and his needs above all others. Even if I thought he would help us, I don't trust what he considers help, I explained, and Doran's jaw unclenched and his posture relaxed. So, you'll aid us? Really, Doran, I was going to ask you the same question, I answered without answering, and Doran smiled. Walk with me, Doran said and stood up from the table. He began walking towards an open door to the right of us, and as I quickly followed him. Once we walked through the doorway, we exited the sanitation bubble, and 2 guards promptly joined us on either side as we continued down the wide white hall. Hey, what's with the guards, by the way? Are we in danger or something here? I asked Doran, who gave me a side-eyed glance but didn't answer. Putting 2 and 2 together, my eyes went wide in realization. Wait, they're for me? Like I said, we all know of you. Some even call you the most dangerous person in Orbem. Pretty sure I'm the only one who called me that. Where are we going? I asked while inspecting the quality of the guards, who both kept their eyes on me intensely. The Orbem Hammonians have prepared for the moment Cormyr would rise to attack once again. Luckily for us, Cormyr is under the impression that we have turned a blind eye to Orbem affairs. That we simply no longer cared, Doran began to explain. Yeah, you've been doing a convincing job. Everyone thinks you've given up on Orbem. Even Calderon, I commented. Doran smiled wistfully. That is a name I had not heard in quite some time. How is my old friend? Old? Concerned about Cormyr and the goblins. They're not too happy you cut off communication. Yes, that I am quite aware of. Boop, 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 boop. Unfortunately, part of the concessions we made to end the war The elves feared more Hammonians would flood Orbem and seize control. Doran said in a monotone voice as his eyes grew dull. Well, that's dumb. Can't even use your mental talking thing? I asked, and Doran laughed. It was a hard decision, but yes, to avoid backlash or retaliation from Myropelia against Orbem, we decided it was best to leave them in the dark on this matter. They have plenty on their shoulders as it is, Doran explained. His reasoning was plausible, though I wondered what the elves gave up to settle the war at that point. Yeah, what would they have given up? Maybe they simply left the Hammonians alone. Maybe they simply left the Hammonians alone. Or were tasked with, I don't know, babysitting the various regions. We walked through several doorways and it appeared we were reaching our destination, so I decided not to start another long conversation. We entered a large room with glass walls sectioning off areas where Harmonians sat while they worked on holographic displays. All the clear walls had writing on them, and Doran walked us to the back of the room where a floor-to-ceiling green-colored holographic display projected with what looked like a map of tunnels. There were various notes written at different junctions and paths with pulsating circles at the end of one of the tunnels on the right, the very right side of the map. This is a map of the troll tunnels. We have spent much time navigating and recording the system, Doran said as he pointed out different portions of the map. You came here, he pointed to the top left quadrant that ended with a small portion of the tunnel where Crawdon met me. What's that part? I asked, pointing to the pulsating circle. It was on the far right side of the map, leading to nothing. That would be why we need your help, a voice came from behind Doran and me. When I turned to see who it was, I noticed a familiar face. Ah, Crawdon Yorshile. Fancy meeting you here, I said sarcastically and attempted to cross my arms. But I only have one. Graham, I do apologize for our last encounter. I assure you, the most I discovered... The moment I discovered your identity, I called for Doran's approval to release you, Crawdon said, with his perfect green eyes peering into mine, and then bowed. Ah, Crawdon said. Crawdon apologized. His perfectly green eyes peered into mine as he bowed. Whatever. What does Mr. Handsome here have to do with the tunnel? I asked frustratedly. Crawdon is the lead of Project Goblin Pestiferous Elimination. His team are responsible for our most important task, Doran said while looking at the tunnels. Oh, okay, so what is Project Goblin Begone anyways? I asked, causing Crawdon to look at me with a clenched jaw. 322 cubic feet of stone separates this tunnel's end and the largest goblin colony inside Orbem. We would deploy an eradication device to quench the goblin threat before they can launch any offensive on the surface, Crawdon said plainly. Suddenly Huron and Juron came to mind. They were banished for not wanting to dig too close to the goblins. The plan must have been why the Harmonians were willing to command such a dangerous dig and break the treaty. So the trolls open a path to the goblin city, you guys blow them up, and the war never happens? What's the holdup? I asked, feeling a bit confused. Well, if it were that simple, we would have done so decades ago. No, we cannot launch such an offensive weapon in the depths of the goblin country of Wurtrin. It would mean Orbem's destruction, Doran said with a depressed tone. He's right. Maybe we would have done that decades ago. Crawdon explained. No. Oh, that's not Crawdon. Doran explained. Explained as his his shoulders slumped. No, we cannot launch such an offensive weapon in the depths of the goblin country of Wurtrin. It would mean Orbem's destruction. He's right. The goblins have been growing their territory for thousands of years. Crawdon added. And swiped. So, Crawdon swiped the large display. That was revealing, that began showing a new map of a large, whatever, city with massive pillars peppered into the streets. Massive pillars as tall, that were whose tops reached the skies. A new map. They've dug deeper and longer than any of us could have imagined. Their structure supports must remain intact, or else such a monumental landmass could collapse, resulting in the ocean surrounding the continent to completely submerge the surface, swallowing us all with it. Cron explained with wide eyes. Ooh. Oh, wow, yeah, that sounds bad. So the weapon you developed will kill goblins without hurting the structures? Like what, poison gas or something? I asked the operations manager, who gained his composure. Goblins are a resilient pest. No chemical compound we have developed show any effect. Only physical means can harm them. No, the device we're engineering involves goblin brain specific frequencies. When engaged, any goblin's brain matter within range will liquefy instantly, Croydon said without emotion, which scared me a bit. Well, that's terrifying. Without emotion. Yeah, I say that. I don't have to say that. Well, that's terrifying. What about the treaty? I turned and asked Doran, who looked at me with squinted eyes. The treaty is meaningless in today's Orbem. The wretched goblins have broken those hollow vows long ago. Now we risk the lives of millions if we do not act swiftly and without remorse. Doran said with conviction, then looked to me. This is but only one part of what is needed to mitigate our threats. The second piece is much more dire. That is why I ask for your aid. Hold on a minute, this is all going too fast. I have way too many questions about our situation. About my situation. I'm dealing with a lot of my own problems as well. First one being that I'm here and not back in the south. Secondly, I need to learn how to control magic. What kind of time frame are we dealing with? I finished my rant and stared at Doran with my eyebrows raised expectantly. Crawdon was looking at Doran as well for a response, but given his reaction to my mention of magic, I figured not everyone knew about me entirely. Crawdon, we will discuss Graham's abilities in more detail at a later date. Doran addressed the surprised Harmonian for a moment, then turned to me. I do not forget the trials you endure. We are your people, and we will do all we can to assist your needs. Come, let us return to my chambers and discuss further. We said our goodbyes to Crawdon and returned to the sanitized room from before. All of that talking was beginning to make me antsy. The issues were compounding and becoming more complex as each conversation introduced more I had to consider. Doran, I want to make sure we stay on topic. I have two things I need handled during this next conversation. If you cannot help me with both, I'm going to leave, I said with much more authoritative energy I could convey. As much authoritative energy I could convey. Doran smiled softly and simply said, "Carry on." Alright, first off, I need you to tell the Troll Council to unbanish my friends Huron and Geron. They were only thinking of the safety of their people and should not have been penalized for speaking of the treaty. I said my first request. Doran looked confused by my words and flagged an attendant over to his side. Who does he speak of? Whom does he speak of? Doran asked the aide, who began scrolling through his palm cube display. Members of the Troll Council. Brothers. They were sent away after the previous dig palavers. The aide answered sharply. I see. You say they protested the dig plan due to the treaty? Doran asked me. That's what they said. I answered, and Doran pulled the holographic display over to in front of himself and swiped a few times and signed the bottom. I answered. That's what they said. Doran pulled the holographic display over in front of himself. Okay. I've sent word to our diplomats that handle such matters. They should see to it that these trolls are given concessions. I do feel sorry for the role this kind-hearted species has played for so long. The end of this conflict will benefit them as well. Doran said with a soft smile, and I believed he truly sympathized with the trolls, which would factor into my future actions. That's great. Those two deserve it. They helped me greatly in getting here. Then I must thank them for that as well. Now, for the most important matter, I must get in contact with my friends. If I could, then I might be able to walk them through sending me my arm so I can transport back. I pleaded with Doran. I need to contact my friend. I pleaded with Doran. Doran thought for a moment, looking off into space. There may be someone who can help with that. As I mentioned before, we maintained awareness of Orbem news and the actions of the elves. The one responsible he reminded me. The one responsible for this valuable information is an ally we gained through various trades and a common goal. We got word recently that our ally has been sent to the southern region by the king. Perhaps he can connect with your friends. Doran said while tapping his finger to his chin as my eyes almost teared up at the thought of just speaking to Yona and the others again. Doran tapped his finger to his chin. Wait, so there really is a Harmonian spy? And it's an elf? I asked and laughed at the irony. Spy is a harsh interpretation. He merely conveys current events. When can we set this up? I asked feverishly. It had been a week or so since I mysteriously left Cannith Village. I can only imagine what my friends were going through at the lack of contact and surprising circumstances of my exit. Not to mention what happened to Corland. It was possible I had lost my best chance to learn to control my magic. In that moment, my focus was getting back as soon as possible. Doran beckoned an aide, and one rushed to his side. Get my communication spell, Doran said plainly, and the aide rushed off. From the sound of his request, I imagined Doran possessed a similar spell to the one the fairies used during my group's travels to the Highlands. The same aide that rushed off rushed back to Doran's side, holding a beautifully carved wooden box that had a single green crystal embedded in the front. Doran placed his thumb on the crystal and it began to glow. Faint mechanical clicks and buzzing noises sounded and the lid popped open. Inside was a dim red sphere. It looked like... it didn't look solid or liquid, but Doran was able to pick it up with ease as it slightly floated in his grip. But he paused and looked towards me. Before... his face. Doran paused and looked towards me. Graham, I do not intend to deprive you of your ability to return home, but I must beseech you with a dire request, Doran said in a serious tone with narrowed eyes. A pang of frustration flooded my heart to my head, and I almost impulsively screamed out in protest, but knew it would not help my needs. Fine, you said I was going to assist in the non-brain-melting part of the Harmonian's plan. What do I need to do? I asked, trying to hide my anger. Your cooperation is most appreciated. This task is most dangerous, for we'll require you to enter the Nocturne Forest once again. We heard of your exploits there previously, so I figure only you are fit to complete this mission. Doran began to explain, with what appeared to be some buttering up. Whoa, no way. I'm not looking to fight Cormier in his house again, I protested. We do not expect you to engage in another deadly battle. Merely a distraction is all that we require. If you cause enough trouble for Cormier and hold his attention, our eradication of the goblins will be all but ensured. Doran's plan seemed short-sighted. If we could keep Cormier from intervening, then the goblins would be defenseless against the Harmonian's surprise attack. The thought of running around the goblins would be then the goblins would lose their strongest defense. But I wondered what sort of power the goblins could be on their own. What kind of trouble the goblins could still be on their own. The thought of running around Nocturne Forest and pissing off Cormier didn't sound appealing. In fact, it sounded like a suicide mission, which I was not interested in. Well, I'm not sure of the logistics of my plan yet. While I'm not sure of the logistics of my plan yet, I'll figure out a way to distract Cormier for you. If we can stamp out the new Orbem War in an afternoon, well, then I can't say no. Doran smiled brightly for the first time since we met. Without another word, he lifted the dim red orb to his face, and it began to glow bright red. Hello? Are you there? Doran asked the orb. Nothing happened initially, so Doran tried it again. Hello? Suddenly the orb began to flicker, and a voice sounded clearly. Yes, Doran. I am here. Whatever could warrant such an unscheduled call? A soft, confident voice asked with a tone of curiosity. I actually have a request I must ask of you, Doran said, and I leaned forward in anticipation. The fact he was talking to someone in the south was thrilling. The ability to develop long-range communication in Orbem was something I began looking into ever since Siona mentioned the spell. The green crystal that Yura was speaking with must have been a Harmonian brand of communicator, but if Doran was using the communication spell, I imagine its range was limited. The fact that I can perform magic meant I could also create spells as far as I knew. My first order of business would be communication devices for everyone, hopefully much more convenient to travel with than this large ball. Oh? What would that be, I wonder, the voice asked, continuing his curious tone. I sit here with someone you know quite well of. He needs contact with his comrades that happen to be in your region. It's imperative for our future endeavors that he returns to the southern domain as soon as possible. They will help him. Doran explained cryptically for a reason I wasn't sure of. This person sounds very important indeed. I will do everything I can to assist. May I know the identity of this individual and his friends? It would be necessary, of course, the voice asked, but I felt in his voice that he might have known already. You're always most gracious. Now I remind you, our goals rely on this man returning to the southern region, Doran repeated for some reason. Yes, I do understand, the orb confirmed, and Doran looked at me and held the glowing orb out towards me. Oh, I said and walked over to Doran's side. Hello? Yes. To whom am I speaking with? I looked at Doran before shifting my eyes back to the orb. Hey, this is Graham Milford. Nice to meet you. The voice chuckled dryly before answering. Doran, you have a very surprising guest, though his presence in your temple does answer some questions I had earlier this day. Doran didn't reply, so I continued. Yeah, it's pretty surprising for me as well. So, I'm not sure where you are now, but if there is any way you could get to Cannith Village and seek out John Forey, Jeannie Smith, Yona Negrescu, or Corn de Greytuft, I really need to speak with them. Cannith Village, you say? In Blackclaw Forest? The voice asked. Yes, that's the one, I answered excitedly. It appeared the elf could really help me after all. That should be possible for me. There are several important duties I must attend to, but as soon as I can, I will try to find these friends of yours. Oh, and there might be an elf with them, the Duke, Corland. I'm sure you know of him. I promise he's not in any danger if he is with them, I assured the elf spy. Corland, you say? Good to know. Thank you for the information. Now I must be going. It was good to hear your voice, Graham. Doran, always a pleasure. I'll reach out as soon as I can. Doran took the orb back and spoke. Thank you, Valdag. Please be safe, and if you find Graham's friends, contact us immediately. The orb's glow faded, and it was once again dark and dim red color. Doran put it back into his container and gauged the green crystal again, locking it. Alright. And that, my friends, is another chapter done. And a good 25, close to 30 pages. Yeah. Sorry. That took up my entire stream. We can take a quick look though. Let's save this. So, where I left off was the repeating. So let's just double check the repeating is still working. Doop 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 ba-doop ba-doo ba-doo ba-doo. Alright, let's sign back in. Motherfucker. I hate when that happens. I don't know what I'm clicking. I think it's like shift enter or something. Ooh, I spelled that wrong. Hummo. Nian. Come on, son. Alright. So he's gonna go. He's gonna move. 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 And that's it. And then that's because his repeat checkbox is off. Yep. No. Shit. It says repeat yes. Wait, why is it not? Oh, did I not? Oh, it says no though. Maybe I didn't click update. Because if I did, then it should say yes. Okay, cool. Alright. So what I do need to do now is add a trigger point. So we need to add an option. We need to add an option. Basically, so cutscenes are here. I mean, I could do the same thing I have been doing, which is like set up a custom taxonomy, and then maybe no. Maybe I just do another text field inside a walking path. Because if I do that, call it trigger point. Yeah, if I made another series of custom fields, called them trigger point, you know, in here, and I do like a text field and then a couple points, because I can either make it a point on the map that you run into, like the bad guys' trigger points. Oh wait, don't I already have trigger points set up? No. I could turn them on though. Yeah, what's trigger point? I think I only have it for bad guys. Let's see. Oh, then it would be in the enemy shit. Damn it. Never mind. I could use the same thing though. Okay. I think I have a good plan. So we'll add a new thing, because the enemy meta box has it. It's called trigger fields. You got top, left, height, and width. So we'll use this. Right about here, and only do it for characters. No. Damn it. Yeah, because I want this for both. I want this to be a separate type of trigger points. So we're gonna have to call it walking trigger fields. We'll do top, left, blah blah. We'll do explore, walk, path. See, like these don't all need to be their own thing. It could be path, trigger, and then, you know, top. And then path, trigger, top. And then we do path, trigger, left. You know, I mean, just do an array. That way they'll all just save into the post meta in one spot. And I won't have to make 20 fucking calls. Okay, that's your height. In fact, I should probably convert some of these ones into arrays as well. I'm making way too many get post meta calls. and eventually they will not be very performant on load. Not a big deal right now though. Whip. And this is also whip. Oops. Great. Now we have that, and then let's do one more. And we'll call that one cutscene. I wonder if I just should call it point. You know what I mean? Just call it point. Because I can make this anything if you run into anything. Right? I can make it if you run into a person, or if you run into, or if a cutscene ends, if it's a cutscene. I think I should actually separate this. I'll make this point. Okay. Then we're gonna get a text field. Trigger point. And then let's also do cutscene, because they're two different functionality, now that I think about it. One's just running into something. Cutscene. The other one is like when a cutscene ends. Also be like type of text, right? Point is cutscene. Okay, so you know, walking path triggers for starting the walking path. If none of them are filled, and it's just on repeat, then it'll just do it on. Load. Well, no. If none of them are filled, it'll do it on load. Otherwise, we'll use one of these. Okay. Well, I'm out of here. Sorry for taking up all the stream on reading the book, but you know, I need to get it done. So I'm definitely gonna have to rush on Tuesday. That's for sure. Now, please, if you're, you know, still watching this, tell all your friends. After Tuesday, I won't have the book anymore taking up the stream, so I'll be back to just focusing on the video game again. So, should be a lot more fun, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut out of YouTube.